What's up, people? Joe Winko here, your favorite Hawaiian guy, and here is my review for the 6th episode of the 6th season of the AMC series, The Walking Dead. Let's get this party started. Okay, so spoiler alert if you haven't seen this episode. This is going to be a review on season 6, episode 6 of The Walking Dead. This episode was titled Always Accountable. And there is a lot of action going on in this episode. I'm not going to talk about all of it, but just the stuff that stood out to me specifically. So, this episode was focusing on Daryl Dixon, Sasha, and Abraham. Somehow they lost to the zombie herd that was following them. They aren't following them anymore. But on their way back to Alexandria, they were attacked by these random people who were shooting at them. We didn't see who the people were at all either. But Daryl Dixon ended up being separated from Sasha and Abraham, and Sasha and Abraham just decided to wait in the area for Daryl Dixon to come find them. They took refuge in this building, and I honestly thought that was a smart idea because Sasha knew that Abraham was a tracker and he would eventually find them, and which he actually ends up doing anyway. But then Daryl ends up being captured by these 3 survivors who think he's a villain. But the 3 survivors are named Tina, Sherry, and Dwight. And they were running away from this crazy group of survivors called the Saviors. And their names, the name Savior wasn't mentioned in this episode, but that's what I read when I was reading about the Walking Dead episodes. And the Saviors are also a main antagonist group in the comics too. I don't read the comics, but I read that on the wiki site. So we didn't see any of their faces, except for the one guy who got bitten by the zombie that couldn't even walk at all. They don't really seem very smart or very dangerous, but I'm most likely wrong about that. They probably are really dangerous. Just that one guy in particular seemed really stupid. He got bit by a zombie and they had to cut off his arm, and they showed their leader. They didn't show his face, but they showed him walking around and his shoes and everything he was wearing. But then, eventually, Tina, Sherry, and Dwight, they realized that Daryl Dixon isn't a bad guy at all and that he wasn't with the Saviors. So then, what ends up happening is, the one girl, Tina, she was a diabetic, and while they were holding Daryl Dixon captive, they had his hands tied up and they were walking around with him following them. Tina faints, Sherry and Dwight try to help her, but then Daryl Dixon escapes and steals their supply bag and steals his crossbow back from them. He opens it up and he realizes that there's insulin inside the supply bag and he feels like he has to return it to them, which he ends up doing, and I thought that was nice of him, and that would really suck having diabetes during a zombie apocalypse too. But either way, it doesn't really matter because Tina eventually ends up dying anyway. She goes to this. They go through the forest and they find this burnt down greenhouse. Well, it's not burnt down, but it's melted because they started a fire. And these 2 girls that Tina and Sherry used to babysit, their names were Carla and Deli. They find them, they have glass all over them because the glass melted over them and their bodies were enclosed in glass. They find them laying down. Tina picks up flowers, she walks over to them, and she's like mourning over them. But then they show one of their eyes open and they're walkers. They break out of the glass, then they grab Tina and bite her. And while I was watching that, I always have my phone out and I'm always tweeting while I'm watching The Walking Dead. That's how you find out if I'm watching The Walking Dead. If you see a whole bunch of tweets coming out of my profile with hashtag The Walking Dead, that means I'm watching The Walking Dead at that moment. So, the zombies break out, Carla and Deli, who are now zombies, they break out of the glass, they grab Tina, they hold her down, they bite out her neck. Well, they didn't bite her neck, but they bit her shoulder. And I was just like, I typed this on Twitter too. I was just like, damn girl, you gotta look out for yourself. You can't be walking around dead bodies. You know, you've been living in the zombie apocalypse world long enough to know that when a person dies, no matter if they're bitten or not, they'll turn into a zombie and try to bite you unless their brain's destroyed. I honestly think Tina should have been smart enough to know that. I have no idea what her problem was, but I still kind of did feel bad for her when she died. Because, as you all know, it's always sad when a pretty girl dies on The Walking Dead. So, yeah, I did feel bad for her. But I'm pretty sure I'm not going to feel bad for Sherry once she's dead, because her and Dwight ended up stealing Daryl Dixon's motorbike and his crossbow, because Dwight had a handgun that Daryl Dixon told him to hold on to after Daryl Dixon thought he was able to trust them. They stole his motorbike and they stole his crossbow, and then Sherry looks at him and says sorry, and then he says, "You're gonna be sorry," and then they drive away. That was a huge ass mistake. And I already know that Daryl Dixon's gonna get his crossbow back and his motorcycle back. I'm 100% sure that Dwight and Sherry are gonna be killed off very soon. Unless one of them gets smarter or something, but if they do end up dying, I'm not going to feel bad for them at all, because you can't mess with Daryl Dixon like that. So, yeah. Eventually, Daryl Dixon finds a fuel truck, and he goes to find Sasha and Abraham, which he does find them. And then they head back to Alexandria. On their way back to Alexandria, Daryl Dixon tries to call Rick on the walkie-talkie, but then they hear another voice on the walkie-talkie. It's like really muffled and everything, asking for help and yelling help. I'm not really sure what that voice is. I think a lot of people were saying that it might have been Glenn, but I'm not really sure if it was Glenn. I'm kind of doubtful that it is, but it could have been, unless Glenn got himself caught up in another bad situation. Because also, in the previous episodes, Sasha, Daryl Dixon, and Abraham, they didn't make it back to Alexandria yet, so they could have been following that walkie-talkie voice trying to help whoever was trying to call them. It'll be interesting, but I'm pretty sure we're eventually going to find out. Personally, I think whoever was asking for help on the walkie-talkie set, I really think it's someone who we haven't seen on the show yet. I think it might be a new character or something. But then again, I could be wrong, but that's my speculation. So please comment and share your thoughts. Who do you think was calling out help to Sasha, Abraham, and Daryl Dixon while they were on their way back to Alexandria on the walkie-talkie? And do you really think that Sherry and Dwight are going to die this season? I honestly hope they do, because you can't steal from Daryl Dixon. So yeah, please comment and share your thoughts. And that's basically it. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to this channel and to my main channel. And don't forget to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. And that's it. So peace out, people.